Got it. All right, welcome everyone at the next multi-networking community sync. Today is March 13, and today we have quite few topics. I think gonna start with the user journey. So basically, all the discussion we did through the past, I think 2 or 3 meetings, I tried to summarize them in more uh, prose way, kind of, to more descriptive way compared to what we have like bullet form. So please, this is it. I just noticed that Antonio's left a bunch of comments, so I need to probably address those. But please read through those. This is what we kind of the few use cases that we kind of come up with from the comments. This is the initial notes that we had. So please go through those and see whether they fit. I think I have Pete. Neha isn't here. I was unable to grab her email on this last one, so I would want. I don't know, Pete. Uh, are you aware of this hosted on behalf service? Is this kind of accurate? I'm not sure whether I captured the kind of the clue of this correctly, and I would like if you, I'm not sure whether you could tag her directly. I couldn't find her email.
Yeah,
No. So,
I can find her email address certainly,
and if you could
and
just
I'll
tag.
I'll ping her and say that there's a question about this one.
Yeah, just see whether I did properly capture it. If anything, I can even give her. And folks, if you want to editing this, I didn't open it for edit to everyone, but if someone wants to tweak this, let me know and I can give you edit rights. Right now, everyone can comment. But if you want to add modify this is on your own. Doug, I did tag you on this one, so please take a look from your side.
Yeah, I'm taking a look here. I am concerned about Antonio's comment on this, that this isn't a good use case to modify Kubernetes to adapt to my topology. I think that
Yeah,
that
just
is ridiculous. I think it's a reality that people have existing networks, so I'll make a comment.
yeah, and let's if you can please help. Yeah, I just noticed myself the comments. I have not been how to say this. I have not been subscribed to comments on this doc, so he commented that yesterday. I just noticed it today. So please look through those. I will try to reply to Antonio's comments as well, so that we kind of sort this out better. And any other comments to this? I think this is most of the all the kind of from the notes that I captured. Those are all the use cases that we called out. Um, yeah, let me know if anything else is missing. Please have discussions on this, see what we can work out of that. And this is something that the next stage will be. Doug, this is your entry. I think this is what you wanted to ask about. I would consider the KubeCon network discussion, right? If you want, we can switch to that. Let's maybe do that since this is kind of related. Let's change the order of things. I would consider this is your ammo to the discussion at least the base for that. What we are thinking, what sort of use cases you've been on all the discussions, Doc, about all those. So I think you have the kind of background of where they come. You have the notes as well here. Is that, what do you think? Is that sufficient, or uh, and
Yeah,
I'm moving towards now your topic on the agenda.
yeah, totally. Okay, I get what you're saying is that in short, the things that we need to represent are our use cases, and that
Mm,
absolutely makes sense to me, right? Is these are the things that we're looking to achieve. I think one thing I am concerned about related to this is, to me, it seems like Antonio and for good reason, it's a good thing, is he's trying to figure out where there is overlap between these different efforts in networking. And I'd say in specific, it's us, Kubernetes native multi-networking, DRA, KNI, maybe with like flare of needs for AIML in the AIML space. And kind of what I'm afraid of is that he wants to condense these efforts, which I think could be good, because certainly one thing that's looked like to me for a while is that in order for us to move forward, we need like buy-in from a like wider range of stakeholders here. But what I'm afraid of happening is that we get lumped into another effort, and then our use cases aren't being met because that other effort is focused on something else that isn't multi-networking.
And that's true. And this is to be clear with you. Last week, I finally went through an effort. Dan isn't here. Dan left me a bunch of comments on our CAP, and basically one of his comments, I will jump and share this, is as an alternative. We did call DRA, right, as an alternative, but what I'm calling out is that like the default pod network, right? The kind of concept that we want to make. We want to make sure that pod network is a first-class citizen in Kubernetes. I feel with DRA is exactly what you're saying. With DRA, we are just afterthought, and basically we cannot be again. Yeah, you can use DRA to implement your stuff. It's like, no, DRA has to be then able to implement my stuff as well, not the other way around, and not just we are an afterthought. So this is something that definitely I want to ensure that yeah, we can just reuse DRA to support additional interfaces in the future, right? But then I need to be able to now reference DRA objects in service, in gateway, in network policy, and every other place in such a way that they will understand, okay, this is multi-networking, and okay, now I'm doing this stuff on this network. You see my point, Doug?
Yeah, I think I see what you mean. So let me try to say it back to see where where I may be missing it is, right? So going with the DRA approach, we would have to have we would have to do everything using DRA. So that means that for everything that we would need to make work with multi-networking, like services, network policy, gateway, etc., now that's going to need DRA object integration into those, which, at least the way I see it, is more complex than what we're proposing here, which we have really slimmed down. So that's
if to be honest with you, this is negotiation / let's figure out what's the best for the project, right?
Yeah.
If we are to move the DRA towards DRA approach, then that's fine with us, but let DRA be modified in such a way that it can support multi-networking as well. It shouldn't be oh, there is this DRA, just use that and get lost, right? Kind of a thing. No, then we should have to have a right to say something about the project, right, itself. Otherwise, consolidation of effort perfectly. Then let's consolidate, right? We want to have a say in the object in the design, and then slightly modify it to support our case, right? Or our use cases should be then as well supported. And exactly what you said. And I'm just giving you additional argument to the notion what you initially called out, Doug, that yeah, we are again just an add-on, right? An afterthought. So that's not the point of this effort, right?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, yeah, my goal for this group is to, represent everyone's thoughts here. So that, because I mean, at least in my experience, is when you have these kind of conversations at a KubeCon, stuff starts to happen very rapidly. Ideas come up really rapidly, and I just want to make sure that this group and the direction that we want to go is well represented. Also, I mean, nothing against DRA, but it to me is confusing and difficult. It's a challenging area. I can see how you could say that multi-networking might be part of that, but I sort of see them as related but unrelated kind of
Yeah.
stuff, because certainly you could have multi-networking without DRA, and you could have DRA without multi-networking. So I don't know.
I think the problem here was that no, it's not a problem. DRA, I see DRA as an enhanced device plugin, and that's what it is. And now, since they want to treat network interfaces as a resource, that's the problem, right? And that's what it is. That the core of DRA is resource allocation. It's not networking. It's those the side effect of DRA is to use maybe not the side effect, sorry, is the goal of DRA is to provide and slice and dice resource, right, in a vendor specific way, right, not by just what we did before or we do today. And now, since GPUs is the main driver and AI is the main driver for this even effort, otherwise probably it will got killed, and AI needs networking, that's why we are being clamped up. That's unfortunate reality, right, to this. I assume if DRA didn't existed or AI didn't popped up, we probably would get this one forced into, but yeah.
Those are really good perspectives and really helpful perspectives for me, because you know, I want to cooperate so that, you know, all of these efforts move forward. I just don't want our effort to be lumped in with something where people don't really care about it, right? So if you're participating in DRA because you want to allocate GPUs, that's all well and good, but maybe you don't care about networking. And if you care about like AI/ML networking, while I do think that there are a number of like similar problems, like Mike Zappa was saying, like the architectures are different. So it might not care about all of our use cases that might be, so, okay, cool. This is very helpful.
So I had one more note. I just want to say one more thing. What was that? Oh, KNI. Why KNI is an alternative in any form. I'm considering, and let's because that's what mine and Michael is understanding as well. Antonio's clamping KNI with us is completely misunderstanding of what the two efforts are. Let's make sure that Doug, you understand that part, as I hope as well, because you cannot deal. KNI is a low level down in kubelet, just slight modification refactoring of how we would deal with multiple networks. That's it. It's not it's not a replacement. K9 does not introduce any APIs. Let's make sure this is clear, because that's something that I see Antonio's making that mistake. Me and Michael do understand that K9 is just a supplement, and I would say even a more enhanced implementation of multi-networking. And this is where I got constant comments from in the KEP initially about the CRI changes, right? And I'm saying CRI changes are not part of this KEP because CRI accepts V1 pod as an input, right? So I would say we already passed the required information to the CRI. Now CRI has to adapt, and then the container runtimes has to adapt. That's my understanding. Jaime, you have a hand. Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that is like, I don't think that the comment of KNI here is, I don't think the perspective is that they see it as a replacement or as an alternative. I think the perspective here is that they see it as an enabler, in a way that if the core implementation of Kubernetes is changed in a way that a new API can be facilitated out of core, then they see KNI as an enabler for a multi-network API that would be somewhat different to what we are proposing. I think that's a different perspective.
So, Jaime, this is what mine and Michael's understanding is. I don't think that's Antonio's understanding, and I think the rest folks, because he's bringing DRA, multi-networking, and KNI in one sentence, stating those are three similar approaches to resolve almost the same. That's how I'm understanding his statements. And yours, what you just described, I think that's true, and this is how I'm understanding this. But that's not might not be the understanding of Antonio here. This is what I'm what Doug just mentioned. This is why I want to make sure KNI is not a replacement. It's just, as you called it, is a enhancement, an enabler for multi-networking, right? Doug, do you see that? Do you see the same, or what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I think that you can kind of see my opinion here in the notes a bit, right? Like this is a way that so it's the way that I see it with the relationship between our effort here and KNI is you could make an implementation for multi-networking using the KNI layer, right? You there's no reason that you couldn't get right in there and do it, but it doesn't specifically have anything that covers multi-networking. It just allows for it.
Right. Yeah, no, this captures it perfectly. Yeah, thanks, Doug. This is exactly what we mean. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, sweet.
Yeah.
All right, good. We're on the same page. Nice.
Any
That's
I think Neha, you had a comment about device plugin. Is this in relation to this?
Yeah, not in the relationship of KNI. I am aligned of what we've discussed on KNI, but I'm sorry, I joined the meeting late, so I don't know. Did we? And we were talking about the DRA at the time when we joined. And pardon my ignorance. Have we read through the device plugin flow? Like device plugin also can be used to achieve to provision and like define an additional device. I mean, you could call GPUs an additional device and have and the device plugin manager or the device plugin component, which is the implementation of device plugin, could do the similar things. Could attach a multi-network. Like you could attach this additional network as a device to the pod. So have you read through that? And really, what I'm trying to understand is the key difference between why DRA and not device plugin.
So, if anything, device plugin is, I think, for some reason somehow limited. It's you have a what they were saying. I think the device plugin is a you have integer numbers, right, of your resource, and basically your plugin just provides a one of that. I think the array is supposed to address the case where you can tell I want a specific of that 10, right? If I have, let's say, 10 VFs, virtual functions, and I can say I want the second one or the third one or something like that. I think this is the array where it can come in and tell you more details what explicitly you want to plug into the device. It's not so that you clump everything under one just resource name. I think that's one aspect of this. The other aspect is now that maybe gives you a bigger question, right, Neha? Because this is where KNI try to address this. Should networking, because this is what this design comes from the aspect that networking has been done through the CNI, and we are just following the same path, right? Why would I do if I do additional networks through device plugin or DRA? why then we need the CNI? I want every network to be done like that. Why would I implement the two ways? One networks to be done, the default network to be done through CNI, the other one's done through the device plugin. If we are saying multi-networking has to be done through DRA, I want the whole thing to be done through DRA. Let's get rid of
No,
CNI.
I'm agreeing with you.
No, that's my argument to that, and that's another pointer right here, Doug, as well, by the way, to the whole why DRA. Let's get rid of CNI then. If we are going DRA path, let's get rid of CNI. That's basically my answer to that, because I want all the networks to be done, all the pod networking to be done through multi-networking. It's not like I don't want multi-networking to be like Multus, where it's just an add-on. I run default and then something additional CNIs, right? This is how Multus works today. That's not the point, right? We want to ensure that it's fully fledged, fully integrated, and it's completely, it does the whole thing, right? All the networking for your pod. You see that point, Doug, as well?
Hold on, I'm trying to get my head wrapped around it here. All right, so hold on. Let's step back to this argument, because I'm trying to grok it. Is
Because this is something that,
there's
yeah, go ahead.
so I'm just trying to get this statement correct for the notes, and so that I understand it. It's like, if we move forward with the DRA, then and DRA can solve this, then should DRA replace CNI? Is
Yes,
that okay?
that's my take on it, because then I don't want to have two implementations. Oh, my default network is going to be gone through CNI, but the rest is going through DRA. What's the deal? That's not the point. That's I want to move away from two implementations for the same. I want to have one implementation for regardless what networks do I have, right?
Yeah. All right. I see this as I like this angle as well, because to me, what is being defined in KNI as, to me, what looks like the next iteration of CNI, right? With a
Yeah.
closer integration in Kubernetes, right?
Hey, to answer your question, yes, exactly. That's what Michael's goal is, to ensure that KNI can be that CNI v2, right, approach. But I'm trying to, discuss the case of let's do multi-networking through DRA, right? That's where this is the angle we're trying to kind of discuss here, an argument on why not, right? I agree with you. KNI is supposed to be that next step, but then do we integrate KNI with DRA? Is that, unless we do that, then that's fine, right? Unless we integrate DRA, can I work as well with KNI? And then that's fine with me as well, if we can do that. But that's the design, that's the input to that DRA design I would want to have, right? You see that, right? Because then that should be the case, right? We could make that can be as well an argument that, okay, if we say we go with the DRA option, then DRA has to be understood by either the CRIs or the KNI if we move with that. Neha, do you see the point? I'm not sure whether I answered your question here.
And I want to add to it. See, the DRA, like, and I've been reading about DRAs and device plugin of lately. The model. So one of the key thing and one of the key asks what we as a cloud provider I get from customers is the agility and the speed, the performance at which they want to attach this network. These are latency sensitive workloads and pods are ephemeral, right? Pod can like go from one node to another node. They may also have a static gateway, egress gateway attached to that pod into that customer network. So they want to yank the pod away from one node and attach it, the same network, same IP, to another pod, to the another instance of a pod running on a different node. If we go with the DRA mode, as far as my understanding of DRA is an additional scheduling, and it's not as performant as what the kubelet to container runtime to CNI flow, because that is in the critical workflow of any time a pod gets created. So we are kind of that's one of the key things I want to add that using DRI will impact performance, and that's something gonna be a deal breaker for a few of the scenarios.
That's fair, but this is where we need to ensure that if we were to move that path, we are not just okay, use whatever DRA has and just go with that. No, DRA, I want to DRA and fully support multi-networking as well, where that means
Yeah,
we
I
either
agree with
replace CNI or exactly what you're saying. Let's make, because what can be make a case, what can be make, we just use DRA APIs, right? And have a special flag on the claim object that says, okay, this is network. And then we treat the DRA just APIs, which are already almost there. And then we just rename the whole things that we have today in the object. And if you look at the objects that we have today, they are very, if I share this guy for a second, the object is very simple, right? It's not like a rocket science, right? So the worst part is this, right? The pod spec changes. And they already have this, right? They have most of this. They have the attachment, they have the name. This piece, they are called claims. And basically that's the argument everyone's making, that, okay, PodSpec already will have this type of model of dividing things. And then if you look at the array, the pod network and pod network claim, if I go to my global, this picture, right? Pod network attachment, they have claims, and I don't remember, but they do introduce as well two objects which by themselves can point to a parameters, custom parameter. So basically the model is almost the same. That's the thing. But so API wise, basically we are kind of exactly the same. The only
But
problem, and yeah,
what about the scheduling thing? I
and
understand.
they have the scheduling part as well. and that scheduling part is even more elaborate to compare to what we are trying to do
Exactly,
here.
exactly. So the difference may not lie in how you're constructing the pod network or this pod network attachment resources. That may appear similar to what DRA is, but it's really the key aspect, key difference, and at least in my hand, and you can correct me, is how you are orchestrating the scheduling. Networking is in a critical path of a pod come up, right? Pod cannot be in a ready state unless you have a networking provision, and
Right.
we should not make multi-network pods as a third class citizen pods. They are as much as first class. They want their
Exactly.
additional
That's I
network
agree.
to be they want their additional network to be provisioned also at the same velocity, same performance
So
as their
on the scheduler part and the performance of that, this is where I think the initial design, the array was pushed back because that was hindering the autoscaler, right? So this is this part what the rest of the community anyway is trying to address.
Okay.
So that part is is being addressed for the DRA anyway. There is a big rework. I need to reread it anyway, but if I'm not mistaken, that's being redesigned. The other aspect of the DRA though is, and if someone is aware, that I think they use CDI of the container runtime, right? API. So basically, they have another component down below in the container runtime that yeah, thanks, Amy. That kind of later on implements this. So basically, they even report and provide the plugin, and instead of CNI, like, or in our case, we want to, I'm calling it an implementation for multi-networking. They do it through the CDI, right, in container runtime. Exactly what you said. The plugin of device plugin. The binary of device plugin, they have something similar here for this, and yeah, but then is that faster or slower? I think this is something that probably can be measured and can be written in such a way that it will be same speed as CNI. I'm not considering this, but things like I know that there are cases of CNI add, CNI delete, right? How you deal with that? There are some races, can be some races, right? And something CNI that already supports that kind of API, can the CDI part do the same, right? And have the same paths. Pete?
Yeah, just a couple of things about DRA. The first thing is that at the moment, DRA can't do networking. Well, I mean, it could be extended, but at the moment, there's a plugin that runs on the node. And at the moment, I don't think that is in the right place or called at the right time to do networking. But maybe the more philosophical thing about DRA is I think it's very big and complicated and quite heavyweight. And that's sometimes what you need. For some of the use cases they have where they're slicing up GPUs and so on, they do need to have quite a complex process. So I think DRA is the right thing to use in some cases where we've got some crazy DPDK, SRIOV type combined setup where we've got complicated stuff to do. And that's perfectly reasonable. Doing it for every single pod and particularly doing some of the more complex flows for every single pod, that feels a bit more problematic.
Yeah, exactly.
So if it's I've got my 4 special pods that have got some crazy configuration, then yeah, great. DRA is the way forward. But if we're saying every time you use multi-network, everybody has to use DRA, that feels wrong to me.
That's what it would have to be. Lionel, I hope I got your name properly. Okay, go ahead.
Just I have a comment regarding also the DRA status. How would you report the IPs? Because I want the IPs to be used in the endpoint slice controller to create the endpoint slice for the services. And DRA is so generic that we will never have I don't know, pod IPs in the DRA status or something like that. So we need something in the pod status that is multi-network aware.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where we have to have. We could somehow make a case that okay, if I set a type in the DRA claim that it's network, then maybe that will be the conditions where if it's a network, then basically it goes to the CNI or KNI picks it up, and then we properly do the path that I'm designing here, right? Where CRI does the work and comes back with multiple IPs, and we match it into and push it to the
But is
pod
that an
status.
additional hop we are talking about? First DRA, or is it like in the kubelet?
So no, that will be where basically, and now I'm hand waving here a bit, where we just leverage the APIs, right? And basically DRA itself is designed such a way that, oh, if I see network DRA claim, I have in mind that, yeah, I don't go through the device path, I go through the KNI path, for example, right? And that basically is the same as we would do here. It's just that the object is called a claim, not pod network. That's what it is, right? And then KNI does its all work and it knows, oh, it's multi-network, so I report pod network status. And by the way, we slightly changed that. Now it's like this because we cannot change pod IPs. So FYI, this is a feedback from review from Dan. So this would be the look like, but basically updating this list, right? That's what we care about. KNI would do that because it would understand, oh, this is a claim, it's a networking type, I pick it up and consume it and do my stuff, right? The way pod network was supposed to do. The one problem with that one is that users see some claims, not pod network, right? So I list claims and I create a default claim, etc., right? So that's big clunky, but I don't know. Yeah, that's what it would end up to be. But I think we could make a case where, okay, let me reuse the API, let me reuse the scheduler, but down below in kubelet, if it's a claim type network, I go through KNI, not through the DRA default.
So what you're suggesting is we'll continue. We don't have to construct the new CRDs, or not the CRDs, new resource types like pod network and this pod network attachment. We'll continue to use the same DRA based object, and then if the DRA object type is network, let KNI be the implementation of handling that network type.
Exactly. Okay. So this is what I mentioned before, that if we were to pursue the DRA path, commonize it, right? Let be connected. Let's make sure we can inject something into DRA design, right? And that will be the bit, right, where we need some type of the claim, and when its type is network, we do that part. We don't do the whole device route or something. Or if we do that part where it's always through device, let's ensure that it can do all the networking for us, right? So this is to ensure now what you're saying, like it has to be fast. I agree with you. And then it has to basically be supporting fully fledged all the networking, not just the add-ons, right? Like for GPU interfaces, because we want this DRA to handle our default network as well, right? So that's the main kind of conditions for this. yeah, basically that. And then basically what it would boil down to, either we do this special type, or we ensure we get rid of CNI and the whole thing, and now DRA does the whole thing for networking, right? That's something that I'm giving you some additional arguments, additional ammo on discussions about, okay, what it will look like if we were to do multi-networking with DRA, right? That's kind of some of my ideas. You might have some maybe more. There will be discussions. So
Got it. Yeah, that's yeah. I appreciate the perspectives for big time.
And basically, Doug, that's another thing I want to call out. I think this cap, I'm freezing this cap on the discussion you're gonna have next week. Sorry, no pressure, but that's what it is a bit. So the results of the next week workshop will give us direction of where we're going, right? That's what that's how I am seeing this, at least.
Marsha, is there going to be a workshop in the KubeCon Paris?
Yes, next week. Oh, if you're not aware, if you're there, because
yes,
definitely
I'm there. Would you be able to add me in there?
Sync with Doug, and he knows all the details.
Let me see if I can find. So it's part of the contributors summit, and it is hosted by Antonio, and he's calling it the future of Kubernetes networking. Let me see if I can find.
Zapa was able to sponsor me, and I tried to register. Sorry, I'm like taking the conversation on side. Maybe I should discuss this with. I'll discuss this with you offline.
Yeah. More hands in the meeting is appreciated, Neha. I think we probed for this on some of the previous meetings. You might not have been on the meetings, but we know Doug is going. Nathan, I'm not sure you're gonna be there. Do you know or no?
If it does require, I'm still lacking a con ticket, so
okay.
If I manage to get one, I'll be there. Otherwise,
okay. So it's still all right. That's fine. Yeah. So yeah. So I know we know I personally knew about those 2 persons that goes. Neha, it will be great if you can attend as well.
No, absolutely. I've been looking forward to discuss this in more detail. And if there is already a meeting for it, let me sync with you, Doug, how I can get myself in.
Sounds good.
Lionel?
Yeah, just a question about this, because on Monday I heard about that from Michael Zapa, that we need to be a contributor in the contributor organization.
That is so. To be honest, I don't think, or maybe whether they're gonna check you. They might check your yes, but basically this is for contributors, and then you have to be part of a member of the KK. That doesn't sound right. The Kubernetes. You have to be part of the Kubernetes org officially. I
like to attend this meeting, but yeah, I'm not part of it.
No, Lionel, this is about like being the general contributor to Kubernetes, not this only meeting, right? So something that Doug recently, you can look at becoming a Kubernetes contributor. Look that up in Google, and it will link you to the right links in GitHub. It has some forms, what's not, so you can read on that. Michael?
Yeah, I was going to say that I'm pretty certain they put a different sticker on your badge, so they won't actually let you in. So if you can find a sponsor, the email you want to send to is summit-team. Why am I saying? I'll just send it here. To get a sponsor, you need to do that by like Friday. So you would register, and then your sponsor would send an email to that, CCU, your name and such, and then you can be allowed in.
So get in without the membership, right? That's what you say, Micah?
Yeah, if you're not an org member yet, you can be sponsored, and that's the email you need to, but you need to do that like
by end of Friday,
now.
end of the week.
That's the route I'm trying to get in, and also get myself into the contributor.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it looks like the person that's supposed to be handling that has an out of office reply going right now. So I think the email enough will suffice at this point.
Do you need multiple sponsors, or one is enough?
This is for membership. This is different, Lionel. This is for you need multiple for the membership. This is just for to be able to attend the contributor summit. So next week and at least the last two I've been KubeCons, the first day of the week is for contributors. So basically all the members of Kubernetes org. And basically that is free, by the way, that conference, but you have to register to it. To register to it, you have to be the contributor. Or to register to it, while I'm learning, you can get a sponsor and register. Is that right, Michael? That's the other option, right? That's my understanding, right? You can be registered on that summit through a sponsor, and you need just one.
Just one.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, and I appreciate if there will be. Lionel, are you planning to be there as well?
I'll be in KubeCon, but I need to contact this submit email first.
Oh, okay. Perfect. So yeah, the more the merrier. Then there's a better case for us to kind of either push this or all the discussion we had today. I hope I see Doug has comments, notes on this. We have the story here, the whole discussion. This meeting is recorded, so you can always review that to what we talked, to have better kind of discussion next week. I would and basically this is what from my point of view, I am waiting for the result of that discussion and see where we go from there, right? Because that's what's currently in the limbo. At least I'm feeling that I'm in the limbo on this cap and how we're moving forward. Any other comments to this? Any other doubts, arguments? All right. I have one more topic. We have 10 minutes. I think that's right. So this came from the review feedback from Dan Winship to reconsider the network classes. And I think he got a good point. From his feedback, I captured one valid let me maybe share this. One valid point from this is because he was commenting on the provider's part of the object, and where let me just maybe let not this one. Let maybe show the more readable version of this pod network. So we have the provider field, right? And the function of the provider field was to identify who's implementing and driving the specific pod network, right? The problem with the provider is that implementation will have to implement the case when it's empty, because usually, and how you handle this. And imagine a situation if I have two implementations inside my cluster, and then both of them assume if provider field is empty, I'm handling that object, right? So that's something that then two implementation will have to ensure that they both force that capability, that when it's empty, I don't handle it, right? I only handle when it's specific name, right? And that's something that then kind of gentleman's agreement only can work here to ensure that this works, right? With classes, this field will be mandatory, and you link to a class, right? And class can be exactly Multus networking, right? And that's a class, and you always have to specify that. And this is more explicit in terms of who's implementing the specific pod network compared to just this kind of loose provider field, right? So I think that gives us at least that part solution. And there's the other part that, on the other hand, Dan is listing in his comment, where we can then create maybe otherwise a classes where you have a generic class, and then you can split it in terms of what type, not by vendor, but what type of network you want to provision. So then you can slice and dice the way you wish it, right? It doesn't have to be just one type. It can be multiple ways on how you kind of division the implementations of the specific pod network. So there are kind of that aspect of this where, let's say, we don't support, or maybe the clusters don't support multiple vendors in the cluster, but then the implementation support a standardized way classes that provides an interop between platforms, right? One platforms, so we would have like generic class, and then let's say we will have SROV class, right, of a network, and those how they implement, and that's up to implementation. But then top level linkage for, let's say, Helm charts is the same whether it's, let's say, GKE or AWS's EKS, right, or Azure's Kubernetes. So that's where this can provide some sort of interop between vendors, where we all standardized on a class, and then you're basically, as a customer, your Helm charts doesn't have to change, right? I expect a SROV class network for here, and basically wherever I apply that manifest, I should have that type of class available in the implementation, or I don't, and then basically it's straightforward, doesn't support that cluster doesn't support, let's say, it's SROV. So that gives us this kind of capability to slice and dice how you wish, which is, I think, kind of valid to consider. Any questions, any thoughts on this? And maybe additional note, the pod network class, it's basically what gateway does today, right? We have gateway and there are gateway classes, and this is the same model. So if anything, if you want to read more about what the class means, I refer you to basically that. It points out exactly, I would copy exactly the same thing that gateway does with these classes. Any questions? Any opinion on this? Is that because initially, going back to our kind of comments, what we had, something that we considered using classes from the text, but we said that it's overkill. And then we said that, yeah, let's not do that. But I think Dan is providing valid arguments to maybe just do it from the get-go. I think there is no on this. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to nod verbally. Yeah, I think it makes sense, this argument.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think this looks sensible.
All right. So let me rewrite this a bit to replace the provider and just introduce the class to that aspect. Okay. I think that's all I had. Any other topics, anyone? If not, next week I am going to cancel. Next week is KubeCon, right?
Yep.
So I am doing this. So let's meet in 2 weeks. And good luck, Doug, Nea, Lionel, with your discussions.
Thanks for this discussion too. That really helps me prepare, so appreciate it.
Perfect. All right, folks. See you in 2 weeks.
All right, thank you all. All right, bye.
Thanks.